Okay, so today I start every single video with okay, so I really need to stop doing that. Right. I don't know how to proceed without saying it. This is crazy. Right, so no, that's basically the same. Today I'm going to talk about the things I love in Sydney and the reason why I really enjoy living here. So I know, or I feel like some of the videos that I've put up so far have said quite negative things about Sydney and Australia, but I mean, that's not the whole truth. There is a lot that I love about living here, so I just wanted to do something a bit more positive and share the reasons why I love living in Sydney. Some of them might be a little bit unusual and a bit out there and a bit kind of random, but anyway, what else? Okay, so the first thing is, again, okay, so what else? Anyway, right, the first thing that I love about Sydney is obviously the beaches. And I know I said before in a previous video that Perth's beaches are my favourite, but come on, the beaches in Sydney are still pretty special and they're still way better than the English beaches. Like, if you could live across the road from a beach that looks like you're in the Mediterranean, you're gonna do it, aren't you? Yeah. The beaches here are stunning. The coastline is stunning. The cliffs and the rocky coastline means that you have beaches like Gordon's Bay where it's like this tiny little beach, but the snorkeling is unreal because there's just rocks everywhere, and there are some very special beaches here. So that is number one. Number two is, what should I go for next? Okay, well, seeing as we're talking about beaches, I love how close Sydney is to the rest of the east coast of Australia. So for example, back in September, I really wanted to go up to the Great Barrier Reef before it was stinger season, because you can go up there the whole year round, but you can only go up there for 6 months, less than 6 months of the year, like 4 months of the year without having to wear a stinger suit, because they have like nasty, deadly box jellyfish up there. And I really wanted to go up before it was stinger season. So back at the end of September, I flew up to the Great Barrier Reef. About 3 hours later, I'd arrived and it was Saturday afternoon, chilled out, checked into a hotel, got some food. Next morning, went out on a day trip on a boat to the reef. Had the most amazing day. The following day was a Monday, which I'd taken off work. So I spent the morning on this tiny little island called Fitzroy Island, which is home to one of the best beaches in the world called Nudie Beach. And then that evening, 6 p.m, flew back down to Sydney and was in work on Tuesday morning. Like, it was crazy that I could fly to the Great Barrier Reef for 2 days, really have an amazing time, and do it all in a weekend. Yeah, it was crazy and amazing, and it made me feel so grateful to live in Sydney right now. And it just kind of gave me a little snippet of what I can be doing on the weekends on a regular basis. I mean, it's really expensive, so it's not something you could do every weekend or even every month, because 2 days on the Great Barrier Reef literally cost me like $1,000. But if you just want to get away from the city, if you need some time out, some chill out time, getting on a plane and getting to somewhere 3 hours later that feels like you're over the other side of the world in the Caribbean, it's insane and amazing. And it's one of the reasons why I love Australia so much, is because you can get on a plane 2 or 3 hours later, be somewhere that feels like a completely different country, and yeah, it's amazing. I also love Sydney because the city feels like a city but isn't as busy and big and bustling as London. So I was in London for a number of years. It is my home, but it got to a point where I was burning out. I had an incredibly active social life. It was insane, like my life was just cray-cray. But Sydney has the best of both worlds. It's that perfect mix between London and Perth. It's got the beaches, it has the weather sometimes, most of the time, but it also feels like a city. So you have a lot of events going on, you have all the big shops, all the big retailers, you've just got everything here that a city has, but with a beach, a 10-minute bus drive down the road. So yeah. Also, talking about the weather, despite the summers being quite wet and humid, the winters are stunning. So even though they're really cold and you do need an actual coat and boots and a scarf, and I did buy gloves too, they are beautiful because you get these clear blue skies for weeks and no rain. Like, I think we literally went like a month or two with 0 rain whatsoever, just clear blue skies. And yeah, it's just beautiful. It's so pretty. I also love Sydney because of the bars, and even though they stop serving shots at midnight, and even though they close at 2 AM, the bars here are amazing. And I feel like I'm using that word a lot in this video, but it's true. The bars, I mean, there are bars here that are up there with the bars I've been to in London and New York. There are just, so some of my favourite bars while I'm here are Shady Pine Saloon, the Barbershop, Baxter Inn, the Establishment. Opera Bar is a great one if you're new here or if you've got visitors, because it's got a view of the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge. The Palisades Hotel is incredible. And then you've got loads of others, obviously, around the city and the beaches. So yeah, the bars here are also very special and very good. And they do incredible cocktails. Yeah, I love them. As well as the bars and all the alcohol, you need to balance out the alcohol with something. So Sydney also is really good with healthy food. So the supermarkets tend to have huge aisles filled with like gluten-free, low carb, lactose free, whatever, all those things that people have that I do not have. But I mean, if I was them, I'd be super happy to live in Sydney, because I see all these foods and I'm like, I never really saw anything like that in England, unless you go somewhere like Whole Foods. Whereas in Australia, all the supermarkets have all of these foods that you'd have to go to a specialist supermarket for in England, which I think is great. And I really like it too, because you can just literally just go to the supermarket to buy a huge thing of like virgin coconut oil that's, you know, like not the stuff that goes hard, like the proper stuff, and like chia seeds, and I mean, you can probably get these things at the supermarkets in England now as well. I don't know. But anyway, what else? Also, I also love, when seeing as I'm now talking about health, I love how everybody here is so conscious about their skin and the sun, and how looking after your skin in the sun is so important here. The sun creams, most of the sun creams here are factor 30 or factor 50. You don't really tend to get factor 15 and factor 20 like you do back home. In the UK, there's this big thing about tanning and being bronzed, etc. And people, I think, don't look after their skin as well as people in Australia do. So I guess this is more of an Australia-wide thing rather than Sydney only. But still, I love how people just look after their skin, and it's so important here. Obviously, there's a big hole in the ozone layer, so you kind of have to. And apparently, I think there was like 2 in 3 Australians get skin cancer at some point in their lives. So yeah, actually, I've got, my table just has all this stuff on because I went to the beach the other day. So here's my factor 50 Cancer Council Sport Sun Cream. And also they're really well priced too. I mean, it's like $20 for a big thing like that, which I think is pretty good. Another thing which is very random is I love the architecture of the houses here. So in Sydney in particular, you have these beautiful terraced houses. I am slightly biased because I do live in one. So I don't, this is going to mess everything up. I don't know. Okay, so these are the stairs that go up. Ours is very open plan. No, that it's messy down there, so I'm not going to show you down there. Ooh, soz. But from that outside, the houses are beautiful. They're just so pretty. And then inside, I mean, a lot of them haven't been renovated like this one, but quite a lot of them now have been like renovated to their open plan, but they've still got like the features like the wood floors, the original doors and windows and stuff, but they're just modern. As well as the terrace houses, I also love the new buildings in Australia in general, in Perth and in Sydney. The new buildings are just stunning. I mean, these architectures, if I move back to England, I'm going to employ one of these architectures to build me a house in England, because they're just crazy. They're so beautiful and I really love them. They're just, I love all the open plan, and what do you even call it? The open planness. It's just so light and airy. I love it. Another thing, I love that here, when you go to a restaurant, you sit down and they automatically bring you a big bottle of water with glasses. In England, you have to ask for that, and even then, they'll probably just bring you a small glass of water. They won't bring you a bottle. It's like, why wouldn't you do that? If someone asks for water, surely you'd just bring them a bottle and glasses so they can top it up themselves, instead of them having to constantly like wave you over and be like, I need more water, please. I mean, I'm someone who drinks a lot of water, so if they give me one of those tiny glasses, I literally down it and then I'm like, leave me the bottle, please. Yeah. Finally, I love how cheap the public transport is, and it's always empty. Like, I get the bus sometimes in the mornings. If it's nice, I'll walk, but if it's not, then I'll get the bus. And I always get a seat, even though I'm like halfway up the route. I still always get a seat pretty much. And when I go to the gym in the evening, I have to get the train like 2 stops into the city. And every time I get on the train, it's completely empty. The only busy trains I've really seen are the ones that go to the airport, and even then they're still pretty quiet. But they're just so cheap. Like, to get the bus every morning costs me maybe like just over £1. And it's like a good 20-minute bus ride. So yeah, I love that too. Anyway, I know a lot of these things have been super random, but they're just all the little things that I love about Sydney, really. And it's not even everything I love about Sydney, it's just my top 10. But yeah, let me know in the comments what your favourite thing about living in Sydney is, if you live in Sydney. If you've been to Sydney, tell me what your favourite thing about your visit to Sydney was. Soz. And if you enjoyed, subscribe, and I shall have some new videos soon. So yeah, bye. Oh, and another thing that I really love about Sydney is waking up on a Saturday morning to the kookaburras chirping, making whatever sound they make. It's just so lovely. Like, you wake up and you're just laid there with the kookaburra outside the window, kookaburrawing away, and yeah, that's really nice. But yeah, that's it. Okay, bye.